Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'll begin with our land acknowledgement. At the Township of Severn, we recognize the following land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather and which the Township of Severn operates is part of the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples have been inhabiting and caring for this land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Ojibwe or Chippewas peoples. This territory is covered by the Lake Simcoe Treaty 16 and the J. Collins Land Purchase. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. We'll now sing our national anthem, please.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Just a moment of reflection, please. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? None. We have no public meetings, and we do have two presentations today. First, we are thrilled to have athlete, veteran, and community member Melissa Henderson with us today. It's a pleasure to welcome you to help celebrate your achievements at the 2025 Invictus Games. The Invictus Games, which began in 2014, is a global multi-sport event aimed at supporting the recovery of wounded, injured, and ill military personnel, both active and veterans. After 7 years of service, and thank you for your service, Melissa was discharged in 2015 due to several back injuries. Following 2 applications to join the Games, her second attempt was a success out of 500 candidates for Team Canada. Congratulations. In the 2025 Games, only 56 were chosen, and Melissa was among them. Melissa proudly represented Team Canada in swimming, alpine skiing, and volleyball, standing out as the top female competitor in the 50-meter freestyle swimming event. We are honored to recognize your determination, courage, and resilience, and on behalf of Council and the Severn community, we extend our heartfelt congratulations. Thank you. Our next presenter is Mr. Carmine Stumpo, President CEO of Orillia Soldiers Memorial Hospital, and he's here to give us an update, which is great right here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Burkett and Council, for the opportunity to present today. It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of Soldiers Memorial Hospital. So what I'd like to do is provide a bit of an overview of some of the progress we've made over the last year, as well as give you a sense of where we're going into the future, and it's a very exciting future. Okay. So a little bit of background of who we are. I think this is well known to most of the communities we serve. We are a local community hospital that prides itself in serving our population. We do that with a very, very busy emergency department and excellent integrated services across the continuum of care. So as Deputy Mayor Cox would know, we have a high-performing Ontario health team that integrates services across primary care, home and community care, acute care, to provide end-to-end service to all of our community members. What you'll see in this diagram with the bubbles is not only do we serve our community, we have a catchment area in our emergency department that expands well beyond the region, and we serve everywhere from Parry Sound to Toronto in terms of services, and we have a wide range of regional programs as well. So whether it's women and children, mental health, renal disease, critical care, all these services, not only do we serve our community, but we will reach as far as Parry Sound as well to provide highly acute services. I use the example of our level 2C neonatal ICU. It is a high functioning birthing suite. We have high risk neonates that we have the same level of service as all the major GTA hospitals short of sick kids. So if we can't do it, needs to go to sick kids because there is no one else that can. That's a point of pride, but it's also a great opportunity for us to be able to serve our community with some highly specialized services. So a little bit about this year. It's been a winter. I think for our hospital, we have lived through a snowstorm that has had major impact on the highways, but had injuries, disruption. When that was over, we had an ice storm that created all kinds of havoc for the citizens. Again, I want to point out from a hospital's perspective, I'm incredibly proud to be part of this team. They responded to the injuries, the hypothermia, the carbon monoxide poisonings that occurred as a result of the ice storm with prolonged limited access to power. And the staff and the team had to deal with their own personal lives at the same time, and there was no disruption in service, short of the one day where we didn't have power and we were on backup. We ran on backup for 4 days, and we were able to not only keep the services running, but be part of the team that supported the response at the rec center. And with that, there was an incredible demonstration of community spirit that was exhibited by all who participated and responded, all the first responders, volunteers, and we are really privileged to be a part of that as well. So I'm looking forward to warmer weather ahead. So what have we achieved? There's a few stats here from our last fiscal year. We continue to provide a high number of births, and those births are with a disproportionately high risk births, because that's what we do in our women and children's program. Our surgeries have increased, and it's an additional year where we're able to double our orthopedic surgeries from previous baseline. We recognize that the wait times are still too long, and we're doing our best to be able to accommodate those surgeries. We have a great team to do it. Our emerge visits, very busy emerge. What we're noticing is a higher level of acuity. We're doing a great job giving people other alternatives for care. So the ones that do come to the emergency are the ones that we really need to see, which we think is great. From a discharge perspective, we made some really great innovations. We have a program called Kuchiching Health at Home, where the hospital continues to follow patients into their homes for a period of 4 to 16 weeks. It's a transitional program. It allows people to be discharged home sooner. And sometimes it is the reason why they're discharged home. We've served 400 patients this way. On any given day, the hospital's looking after about 100 patients in their homes. And those are 100 people that are not in hospital. It's been a hugely successful program, bringing us in a whole new realm of care, working with our partners in new and creative ways. So what can we expect going forward? This is a slide taken from some of the statistics from the Ministry of Finance when we look at the aging population. In 2025, you'll see the curve is diverging. We'll see more older individuals, especially a large increase in the population of 85 plus. So we know, and this is to no surprise to anyone, that the population is aging. If we go to the next slide, there's a compounding factor here that we need to pay attention to. We see the population growing and aging at the same time. The population is living with more chronic diseases. Both those factors are not inherently negative. So it's great that people can live and manage with more comorbid diseases. However, those two factors increases the burden of healthcare need. And if you superimpose the social determinants that have a huge impact on people's health and well-being, especially as we look at the uncertainty going forward with the economic future and what that could mean to the social determinants, there is a compounding factor here of increased needs in healthcare. So we spend a lot of time planning ahead, thinking of how we will respond to this increasing need. It's our challenge that we accept. And we want to let people know that this is part of what we're working towards, because we do see some major challenges looking forward. So how do we respond to this? How the best way to respond to the challenges ahead of us is working as a team. And we believe that deeply, and we practice that. Our Ontario Health Team is one of the 12 accelerated Ontario Health Teams. We're leading in the province in our ability to coordinate groups to look at different ways of doing things. We've given a few examples just over the last year of what we've been able to achieve. We have a new chronic disease management service for those that have longstanding illness. We have a pediatric clinic, which is really unique. It's situated in the Simcoe County building. So with Ontario Works, we're able to identify people where they're at and provide their service at point of care. And we've expanded the work at our Couchiching Family Health Team to create more capacity for those that do not have primary care provider. And all of these initiatives are part of a larger vision to help us connect people in a very different and unique way. Next slide. We recognize, even as a hospital, primary care is not our business, but we need to support primary care. People need a family doctor or a nurse practitioner, and we want to be a part of the solution. The best way we can support this is to support the education process. So the hospital has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the University of Toronto. We are teaching more family practice residents. We typically have 2 every year. This year, on July 1st, we'll have 5, if not 6 residents coming through. And we have increased our, it is a formalized process now that we will be part of the University of Toronto teaching program for family doctors. We believe if people come to our community, learn at our community, they will stay in our community. So I think this is a great opportunity for us. And it's something the hospital, the Ontario Health Team, everyone is coming together to work on this together. Within the hospital, we've made some great strides. We mentioned the increase in surgical volumes. We want to make sure we have surgery that's accessible and high quality. And this announcement came out last year. We won an international award for surgical quality to ensure that what we are doing, the work we are doing as best as we can. And we are very proud. Our team was very proud in this recognition, as it validates a lot of our work around quality in surgical care. We have a very robust quality improvement. We know we can always do better, and that is our tagline, getting even better. And that's how we approach our quality improvement in surgery, in obstetrics, and all the high-risk areas. So what's new? We had the privilege of hearing on April 4th an announcement related to the ice storm when the Premier was in town. He made reference to the fact that Orillia is getting a new hospital. So we are working very closely with the Ministry of Health and the Premier's office. We anticipate the budget is coming on May 15th, and we hope to have some clarity around the announcement, which is great news for this community. So we've been advocating for a new hospital for many years. I think the merits, the demands, the growth in our community all point to one direction. And we are pleased to hear from the Premier, and we look forward to a more formal announcement. So it's happening. We've confirmed, and we're just going to get some of the more details coming at a later date. And we look forward to the opportunity to celebrate this with all the communities we serve. I think it's going to be great for everyone. So this feeds into our next steps, because we ask probably the most frequent question I get asked is, where is the hospital going to be? So I'm happy to provide an update. And again, as we celebrate the official announcement of a new hospital in Orillia, we will also be able to share more details around the location. But what I wanted to do in advance of that is share the process, because I think that is critically important. People understand how we came to decide on a location. So next slide. So our site selection process, we created an evaluation. It started over a year ago, where we had an expression of interest, where we put out to all landowners within the boundaries of Orillia, can you please let us know if you have 25 acres of relatively flat land that you would be willing to work with us for a location. We created a task force. This task force had a great broad membership of board members, of committee members, community. We had a City of Orillia staff member to help support the land use issues. And what we were able to develop were criteria for selection, an evaluation rubric or framework that helps us understand what is the best possible land. And that was based on technical criteria. So we had seasoned architects lead the process to ensure that all the technical details were satisfied in the land options we had. And we also had community criteria. We had done a survey with the citizens of Orillia and surrounding and municipalities like Severn, where we had over 1,100 responses, and they told us what was most important to them. And it was clear. It's access to roads and parking. People drive to the hospital when they need acute care. So that was clear, and there were some other additional criteria that were built into the process. So what this committee did was oversee the development and the ranking process. We didn't ask people, what's your favorite choice? You can't win in that kind of a question, but we asked people what was most important to them, and we ensured that we measured the different options to those importance with a high degree of transparency and clarity. So these members all were part of that process. They were able to, at the end of it, say the evaluation that went to the board for a decision was vetted properly, it was evaluated fairly, and it provided an accurate reflection of what they saw in the properties, and they had opportunities to discuss directly with the architects and the hospital staff. So the process was quite sound, and it led to a board discussion and a board recommendation for the site. So again, we will be pleased to share that in the not too distant future. So how do we move forwards with capital redevelopment? We're one of several hospitals in the region that are looking to build, and others are in varying stages of readiness. We believe strongly that we know hospital redevelopment is very expensive and the price keeps going up. We would like to work in partnership. We believe there's a level of standardization that could be achieved both in planning and design. If we work with our partners, we can accelerate the time. Time is probably the biggest variable in cost. The longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. So we want to accelerate the planning process. We also want to work together and not repeat it. So we see examples in schools and OPP. The county has a great process of building homes where there is a level of standardization, and we believe something needs to be applied to hospitals to help mitigate the escalating costs. So with all that, we think standardization also allows us to create more favorable environment in the market. Right now, there's only a very limited number of companies that can build hospitals. of this magnitude. And we feel if we can reduce the risk in the process, there might be other entrants into the market. So we are working very closely with the Minister's Office and Infrastructure Ontario to see how we, in partnership, and we have some great partners in hospitals nearby, to be able to move that agenda forwards, to make sure that we, knowing that the price will be quite high, that we are using taxpayer dollars very efficiently. The other question I often get is, what are we going to do with the current site? And we do have some plans, and we have engaged Infrastructure Ontario on that question. There are two buildings which are worth salvaging. Our community tower is the newest, and clearly it has some life left, and our soldiers wing could be used for several more years. We would like to see that in a more transitional care type role, not necessarily the stress of acute care, that those buildings are not no longer appropriate for that, but they would work well for transitional care, lesser patient need, and also redeveloping the site for housing needs. And we did ask for what's the highest and best use. We can get up to 600 units on that site, again, adjacent to some healthcare, ambulatory, transitional healthcare services, like a community hub, be a great home for the OHT, all of that right in the downtown Orillia core. And it increases the walkability. It does many great things for intensification. So those are some very early ideas that Infrastructure Ontario believes there would be high value. And there'll be more to come. But our intention, we have to utilize the space because we worked very hard to limit the new hospital to acute care services only. So anything that's ambulatory or community can stay in the existing site. And we see that synergy is both reducing costs and providing an opportunity for the community. Often we get a question, how do we pay for all this? And I want to share a little bit of background on how hospitals are funded for your information. So the bulk of this and what a planning grant relates to is the ministry and the government treasury board identify funds, the 10-year strategy, and the province picks up the lion's share of a new hospital, which is approximately 75% of the costs. Locally, what we need to contribute to is 10% of the actual build cost and 100% of all the fixtures that go into it and all the revenue generating sites. So we have to buy the furniture, the equipment that goes in it, and we also have to pay for whatever resources generate revenue, which is typically parking. So that translates to approximately 25% of the overall cost. At this point, I'm a little remiss to give numbers because the numbers keep changing. And as I said, the longer it takes, the more it's going to cost, but these proportions typically stay about the same. So how do we address those proportions? Well, the foundation is fundraising, the hospital's raising money, and we do look to our municipalities for resources. And I want to be abundantly clear, we will not be asking lower tier municipalities for any resources. That happens through the County of Simcoe. There's a process through the Simcoe County Hospital Alliance, and we will utilize that process. We will be in discussions with the City of Orillia as well. So that is the typical process. So the message that I want to share, it's going to be a multiple team effort. And if you look at the breakdown in the slides, there's elements from each that will be contributing. So again, alone, it seems like a daunting number, but together, I'm very confident we will be able to raise the funds. And we are also looking at a 30 to 40 year time horizon. We have time to build. Once we build, we'll have time to have different financing options to pay it off as well. So it's what we're encouraging is planning early, planning soon, getting started, and with good foresight, we'll be able to achieve this goal. I would like to share how the hospital is doing this. So we've made it our priority to be fiscally prudent. We identify a surplus every year that we set aside for a new hospital. And we finished the 23-24 fiscal year with savings. We had a cash balance of $31 million, and we are setting up a savings for a new hospital. That's part of our strategy, and we will continue to do that going into this year. I will say it's getting harder and harder to balance the books in hospitals. It's not easy, but we've made a commitment so far that we need to raise our own share from hospital operations towards a new hospital. Our foundation, next slide, has done the same. They have established a fund to set aside for a new hospital build. And now that the announcement is official, it will become, it will morph into eventually a capital campaign. We kicked it off last year. For those that may recall, the Weber Foundation, of phenomenal community support, donated $3.3 million to soldiers, and we are earmarking the entire amount towards a new hospital. So it's a great kickstart to our campaign as we look towards savings. So we're making progress on all fronts already, and that's before we actually got the announcement to go forward. So I'm very confident over a number of decades we will be able to achieve this target. Next slide. So the last thing I will leave you with, in all this excitement, we're so thrilled with what we've been able to achieve, the direction. Healthcare is not easy work, and I give full credit to the entire OSMH team for delivering outstanding results. We are going into a refresh of our strategy. We want to look ahead. We want to be forward thinking. We're working with our teams. We're working with our communities. I'll be doing this presentation at every community group I can get every Rotary Kiwanis Club. I believe we're in discussions with the Coldwater Lions Club, so we will make sure we get out as much as we can to the various groups and everyone that sees soldiers as an important institution in their day-to-day lives, and asking what's most important to them. We have a strategy. It served us well. We want to see and want to validate that we are still focused on what is important to our community, to our staff, to the people we serve. So that is a process we'll be undertaking, and I would encourage members of council and the community to take part in whatever venue and avenue they have to be involved. And we ask the simple question, what is most important to you when it relates to soldiers, so that we can best serve the people in our communities? So with that, Mayor Burkett.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Very, very well done. Very exciting for not only the city of Orillia, but all of us within the region. I neglected to introduce Terry, and I'm sorry, Terry. Maybe Carmine would tell us. I see you at the volunteer appreciation. I see other places, but I don't remember how he helps out as your colleague.
So Terry Denny is our Director of Community Relations. So he is out and about with me on a lot of these presentations and reaching out to our partners.
A great battering back and forth when he does the volunteer appreciation as the MC.
Yeah.
I think it's Faye, isn't it, that picks on you all the time? Yeah, it's very well done. And thank you for the invitation each time. The volunteers are the backbone of any, like, wonderful job. Anyways, great presentation. Now, council have any questions? Deputy Mayor Cox.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you so much for this presentation. I just wondered maybe if you could do just a quick overview for the rest of council about the Hospital Alliance, so that they could understand more clearly what it is the county does with the hospitals in the area.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cox, through the mayor. The Hospital Alliance is an aggregate of all the hospitals that have a significant catchment, that serve a significant portion of the catchment area of Simcoe County. So that includes ourselves and Georgian Bay General, Collingwood, White Point is part of it, RVH, Stevenson Memorial, and South Lake to the southern end supports a number of the townships there. So we all get together. We work with the county general manager, Jane Sinclair, and the alliance comes together to help support capital allocation. The county has been very generous in allocating $3 million per year for a 15-year period. So the alliance helps determine the funding allocations, and that's been set already. And we allocate $3 million approximately every year. We also work together. The county has been great more recently in making available the dedicated offload nurse in the emergency departments. What we see is when there's a dedicated nurse, ambulances that come in leave quicker. They're on the roads where they need to be, and it makes the entire system more efficient, and we've received great support. So I'm currently chair of the alliance. I'll be presenting to the committee of the whole later this month on behalf of my colleagues, and that's the role that we serve there. So it allows a more centralized and holistic view of the county and the resources and the allocation. And it spares some of the municipalities the worry of having to deal with all its hospitals.
Thank you. And I just also want to thank you for your presentation. And I myself will say that your hospital has always been good to me and my family and residents in Severn Township. I'm sure everyone has a good news story to share about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further, Councillor McIntyre?
Thank you, through the mayor. Just a quick question, Carmen. How old is the hospital at the moment?
Thank you, through the mayor. It depends on which building. So we have one building that's over 100 years old, administrative building. But the one wing that I like to describe in this, and I have a slide for it, where we care for the sickest neonates, our NICU unit is in our Princess Elizabeth wing. It is of such an age that it wasn't the Queen Elizabeth wing, it was named the Princess Elizabeth wing, because it was built in the 40s and commissioned in the early 50s. So,
Okay, and just to follow, will the name remain Orillia Soldiers Memorial Hospital, wherever it will be located?
so that's a great question. We looked at our branding, if you will, and our visual identity about 6 years ago. And when we talked to the community, it was pretty clear that we were referenced as either Orillia Soldiers or Soldiers Memorial. The only constant was the soldiers piece. So when we changed it and you see the new logo, you see the purple, we actually doubled down and increased the reference to soldiers, but we modernized it. So it's not we want to respect the history, but we don't want to live in it. We want it to be a more modernized version of the military. I think we saw an example of that earlier today with the presentation. That is the modern military service. And we wanted to modernize it. It's hopefully less about war, more about community building. And that's the approach we took. So we embraced the soldiers component of it, and we've really made it more dominant. And we love the purple too.
Further comments, Councillor Minnings?
Hi, thank you, through the mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciated you speaking to the slides because I know we all read them. So it's good to hear the story behind the story. I'm really excited by what you said. A couple key areas. I've from most of my life, 40 years in Barrie, so I'm familiar with what the hospital there did and how they preserve the existing, well, what was the existing hospital. So when you spoke about that, the building that we now know of as the hospital, of having 600 rooms or apartments potentially, I guess, plus other usages, that's very exciting, and I'm happy to hear that. My question is, what would be the size or the footprint of the new hospital? So until you came, I was thinking everything was moving to one new location, but it sounds like there will be sort of two locations. Could you just help me understand that?
So to give you a sense of scale, we have to redo, as part of the next level of planning will be detailed planning, where we map out the square footage and get an actual number in a block schematic. So we'll get those numbers in terms of size. The one number I can quote is the bed number. Currently, we're operating about 200 beds, and we need to be planning for 300 going into the decades to come. So that's just based on the growth, and we've seen the growth in the 2021 census. It really increased for this region more than it ever has in the past. And I think you see that in all the development, even in the township of Severn. So that's a sense of it. When you build a hospital, there's certain things that are necessary, the adjacencies. So you need to have an emerge with the diagnostic imaging, an OR, and an ICU with all your beds. And that will serve as the core function of the acute care facility. What will remain behind are the outpatient clinics and outpatient services. So smaller footprint, smaller acuity, they tend to be able to stand alone a little bit easier. Imagine having a walk-in clinic where you see the current emergency department instead as a more of a lower acuity service with a strong connection to the hospital. But that's what we're envisioning. And when we did our last pass at this, we were able to shift 30,000 square feet approximately back into the building. When you think about it in construction terms, that's a significant amount of resources to be able to do that.
Further comments? Okay, do we get the special treatment? You know, 3 of us were born there in the 50s.
And
The
I'm
new
and I'm
hospital?
pretty sure we were all born in the Princess Elizabeth Wing.
Okay, it's a special treatment for the citizens of Severn. So
Thank you.
how's that sound? As a good answer.
And for those of you that don't know, watch out for Carmine because he's a cyclist and he does cycle to work in the mornings from Morabadante. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Terry, both of you for coming. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion, Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you. The motion reads that the delegation from Carmine Stumpo, President and CEO, respecting an update on the Orillia Soldiers Memorial Hospital be received for information.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McIntyre, second by Deputy Mayor Cox. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
Thank you. Motion reads that the agenda be adopted, including consent items as circulated.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cox, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to reports from official for direction, J1, J1.1, planning report number P25-020, zoning bylaw amendment application, Z24-11, Wallace, 68 Coldwater Road, Coldwater. Would like to speak to that. Brad, good morning.
Good morning, Member Council. So as council may be familiar, this application was subject to 2 previous public meetings, one in December 2024 and one just last month in April. During those public meetings, there were concerns raised with respect to land use compatibility. And following the direction from the Planning and Development Committee, staff have worked with the applicant's planner to further scope the list of permitted uses that would be allowed through this rezoning. By removing the four additional uses, being a convenience store, a motel, outdoor recreational use active, as well as a place of assembly. This scoped list of permitted uses would still support the economic development initiative and goals as outlined by council in their strategic plan. And just as a reminder, the site plan control process would still exist and would be required prior to any development happening on these lands. And that would still be a tool that the township could use to further mitigate any types of growing pains with this property as the Coldwater Road corridor does transition to conform with the township's recently adopted official plan. So with that, staff are recommending approval of the zoning bylaw amendment and that the bylaw included as attachment 1 of the staff report be brought forward to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Any comments from council? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Brad, from a planning perspective, what's the difference between a motel and a hotel?
Through the mayor to Member Taylor, the difference between a hotel and a motel is really the access to the building. A hotel would have an interior corridor with access to each of the rooms, whereas a motel would have an exterior entrance with like sort of from a parking lot directly into the rooms.
Thank you. Is that okay?
Yeah, just to follow up, your worship. So as far as number of cars go, they would still be the same?
Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, yes, the parking ratio is likely similar for a hotel or a motel. The provisions would still continue to exist in this bylaw requiring that parking to be located to the rear of the building and not abutting Coldwater Road. And the future developer of the lands would have to provide sufficient parking on site in order to accommodate any proposed use.
Thank you.
Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, your worship. Through you to Brad. Just a question about the restaurant. If a big box restaurant one of the Boston pizzas or one similar to that, is that allowed on this site or is it limited to a smaller mom and pop affair?
Through the mayor, if I may, the defined term of a restaurant in this case as permitted or as contemplated in the bylaw would be limited to sort of smaller scale restaurants. So such as a cafe, an ice cream parlor, a tea or lunchroom, coffee shop, or a snack bar. So those larger full scale restaurants are not something that would be permitted under this rezoning.
Thank you.
Further comments? Okay, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Brad. You have a motion?
Thank you. The motion reads the planning report P25-020 dated May 7th, 2025 with respect to zoning bylaw amendment application file Z2411 for the subject lands located at 68 Coldwater Road be received, and further that the draft zoning bylaw amendment included as attachment 1 to planning report P25-020 be brought forward immediately.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cox, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to J 1.2, planning report number 25-019, applications for proposed draft plan of subdivision SV-T-2103 and zoning bylaw amendment Z-21-18 South Shore Isabel Estates Incorporated, 2060 Division Road West. And who would like to speak to this? Morning, Emily.
Good morning, Mayor Burkett. Good morning, Council. So the report before Council this morning is a follow-up to the 2060 Division Road West draft plan of subdivision applications. Council may recall the 2 public meetings that were held regarding the application in February of 2022 and most recently in September of 2024. At the September 2024 meeting, staff were directed to prepare a recommendation report to be brought to Council, including draft plan conditions for consideration of endorsement. Since that time, staff have worked with the developer and the township's peer review consultants to develop a list of draft plan conditions for consideration of endorsement. To briefly summarize, the following topics were discussed at the September 2024 meeting. From that meeting, conditions were subsequently drafted and included in the draft plan conditions to address these sort of remaining matters. Those were related to water quantity and quality, education regarding septic maintenance, protection of wetlands and environmental protection lands, traffic, including volume and headlights. So as stated and as discussed throughout the staff report, conditions were created in consultation with the developer as well as the township's peer review consultants, taking into consideration the comments made by Planning and Development Committee at that meeting, as well as members of the public. So for some specific examples, the township's consulting hydrogeologist has included specific conditions requiring the developer to prepare a well monitoring program and construction protocol. This would be subject to review and approval by the township. So the requirement for monetary securities would also be discussed as part of that process. Further and more specific details pertaining to the program would be set out following draft plan approval, but prior to final approval. This is very similar to the town line condition to the north of the subdivision. In addition to this, and sort of to enhance the effectiveness of this, a draft plan condition requiring the developer to create a homeowner's manual to be included in the purchase and sale documents to discuss the importance of water conservation and septic system maintenance has also been included as a draft plan condition. As discussed at the previous meeting and being carried forward now, a future site-specific zoning to require the developer to provide protective fencing, signage, and restrict site alteration, tree clearing in the environmental protection zones and wetland areas is also included as a draft plan condition, as was discussed at the previous public meeting and suggested by the township's consulting ecologist. And then with respect to the traffic sort of headlight concerns that were raised at the last meeting, Council may note that there is a requirement for a tree preservation plan and planting or naturalization plan is to be provided as a condition for review and approval by the township's consulting ecologist. Wherever reasonable or possible, the township's consultant would take factors such as vehicle interference into consideration when reviewing such plans as suggested by the committee. I also did want to highlight that the developer and the public school board have agreed to a draft plan condition anticipating the installation of a multi-use path, which would connect the development to the Marchmont Public School. Ideally, this will further reduce reliance on automobiles, especially for those short trips, and provide a safe and alternative means of transportation. The remainder of the conditions discussed in the report are fairly standard, very similar to the town line subdivision to the north, so council's likely very familiar with the similar wording. Should council provide endorsement to the draft plan conditions today, staff would provide them to the County of Simcoe for their review and approval. Subsequently, should the county provide that approval, staff would then bring forward a zoning bylaw amendment to implement those environmental protection conditions and recognize certain restrictions and development in the property. That's all I have for this morning regarding the report, but certainly available for any questions.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Cox.
Through the chair to Emily or Director of Public Works, whereabouts is this multi-use path going to be? Thank you.
Through the chair. I think we're going to bring up a map if we can, but just to explain a little bit. So the multi-use path is intended actually for the whole section of Division Road, from one end to the other in the transportation master plan. A little bit more locally is this particular development is seeking to undertake and connect this section here from Carriage Court over to the school. So fairly localized improvement now as a direct result to the development. And then there's actually a walkway, I believe, kind of planned for between Carriage Court and through a sort of naturalized area between the two developed areas to connect internally, from the subdivision as well.
Supplemental, through the chair. So what I have a concern about is that if you take that piece of property, it says there's a piece there for county widening. If we didn't want to put in a multi-use path, can we put it on that, or does it have to, you know where I'm going with this? Like if they decide to widen and we put this in, what happens to our path, or is it going on the other side?
Yeah, so the county widening is provisioned throughout the entirety of Division Road to ensure that it has sufficient right of way. Because we have a widening already on this particular stretch, we would be putting the multi-use path the furthest away, and it's very unlikely that our road geometry would change significantly from a conversion from the way Division Road is built today to the county future county provisions. But nonetheless, the right of way width that we're looking for an arterial road has been set, and anybody applying along the edge here has been requested to take widenings.
Sorry, and through the chair to Derek once. The only reason I'm asking these questions is with the amount of growth we're having in that area and that Tim Hortons, you see more and more people walking up and down that road. And I'm sure we are going to have, we had it before in the past, but I'm sure we're going to hear from people about the safety of and a lot of them are students going back and forth up the road. And I just wanted to make sure that we had room with that county widening thing for us to be able to maybe plan for that in once this growth, well, we've already got it there, but you know where I'm going with this, more students and people walking. And I know that the people with children in that new subdivision won't be able to go there right now, but still we do have a lot of people walking. They're encouraging them to walk. The school buses have been cut back and they're all walking up and down the road.
Yeah, so I think the response still is much the same. The widening limits are set for the arterial road class, and what we will do is, while we work with this particular developer on the relatively short connection, in the longer scheme, when we look at capital works projects in future, we'll be looking for pedestrian access, active transportation features along this stretch.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I think specifically to the planning people here, it's been interesting to watch this evolve over the last little while. If I had a hat, I'd tip my hat to you. I think the consultant, I think the people on Carriage Court, they had concerns. I think my view is that they've been addressed. Even with that school can't take new students, that school is an important playground area. And for that community, I think it's a great idea. So yes, well done.
Any further comments? Okay, Madam Clerk, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
Yes, so the motion reads that planning report P25-019 dated May 7th, 2025, with respect to applications by South Shore Isabella Estates, Inc. for a proposed draft plan of subdivision, file number SBT 2103 and zoning bylaw amendment S 2118 for 2060 Division Road West be received. And further, that the Township of Severn advise the County of Simcoe that it endorses the granting of the draft plan approval for the proposed plan of subdivision included as attachment 2, together with the recommended draft conditions included as attachment 3 to planning report P25-019. And further, that should the County of Simcoe grant draft plan approval, staff be directed to report on a draft zoning bylaw amendment for council's consideration as a condition of draft plan of subdivision approval.
Seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor McIntyre. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Sorry, Chief Administrative Officer Report number CAO 2025-01-2025 Ice Storm Response Summary of Actions and Recovery Efforts. Madam CAO.
Thank you. That was a mouthful. It's not my report. It was just like the recovery efforts or the emergency efforts. It was done jointly by all the senior team. And I think that council has talked about most of these things before, but we wanted to document it for the public and also to get council's direction to apply for the municipal disaster recovery program. So a bit of a summary on how much we've spent, how much we think we're going to spend, hopeful to get some money from the province, but not guaranteed. And happy to answer any questions, but I think we have covered the bulk of this in a few earlier meetings.
Any questions, Council? Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, Your Worship. I read somewhere that Orillia had a $6 million bill. Is that, are we looking at anything anywhere near that kind of money? I'll direct it to the CAO.
Madam CAO.
Yeah, through the chair, no. I think the report estimates about 1.5 million. That's without knowing how much the county is going to charge us for brush removal. So that's an estimate, but I can't think we'll get anywhere, more than 2 million, which is still a lot. I'm not sure how Oro got to 6. Orillia, on the way to work this morning, I heard they were at 2, and I chatted with the Ramirez CAO last night, and she also thinks they're at about 2. So yeah, I'm not sure how we got there, but that's how they got there, but that's where they are.
Just a follow-up question through the chair. What kind of grant money are we going to apply for to apply that to our approximately $2 million shortfall?
Yep. So the municipal disaster relief assistance program is what we'll be applying for. It's a bit complicated because we have to apply and the minister decides whether the disaster was worthy of funding or not. I mean, that's not the right term, but we've seen locally that other municipalities haven't always been successful. So I have no prediction on whether we will get the funding or not. I'm just looking, it pays 75% up to our 3% of our levy, which is 461. And then after that, it pays 95% if they open the program for us.
Just final question through the chair to Ms. Kennard. Is that our MPP who would make that decision? She, I understand, is the emergency minister now.
It is not. No, I think it's the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Further questions? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Derek. As far as what is the plan with the third-party trimming service? Are we still using them? And what are your goals with that?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, so our plan is to continue to, remove brush and debris, but Largely speaking, we've reduced our contractors, those third-party assistant contractors that we retain from the township, down significantly. We're down to a single crew that we're doing spot repair. And generally speaking, all of the roads that had roads-related impact, mostly tree debris, have been remedied, right? Like, so that's more or less done. What we're seeing now is mostly a waste collection effort. Debris, coarse wooded debris, right up to finely bundled sticks and debris are making their way out from the back 40s and out onto the roadside. And so the County of Simcoe continues their efforts with their third-party contracted services that have a bit more capacity to remove this stuff all the way up to and including May 19th. So May 19th is kind of a magical date where we're going to switch from, if you didn't bring it out to the road by then, that those would then be, not permitted deposits of material on roadway. And so everyone should get out their materials for May 19th and have one final collection pass. And that is predominantly done by the County of Simcoe.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Cox.
And the County of Simcoe will be taking brush for free until the end of May so far. And they did say that they would once again look at it at a county council meeting. If they found different municipalities wanted it longer, they may consider it. But the end of May is when it is stops being free so far.
McIntyre.
Through the chair, once again, maybe it's to Derek. If they've been, for instance, on my street and they picked it up and cleared the hanging branches and so on, stuff in the ditches, and now we drag it out from our house or a resident out from their home out to the street, are they going to come back for that? I understood that it was once done, it was done. Can you clarify that, please?
Yeah, so through the chair, the plan is to come back. So there is a process. Our team is working really well with the County of Simcoe on a GPS tagging device. And so as our patrollers note it, the County of Simcoe gets that data back. And that's why there has to be a cutoff date at some point. So after May 19th, if there's additional blops and blips on the map, they are quantified as unpermitted deposited material on roadway. And of course, we have bylaw offense for that and some other issues. But what we're looking for is a clean cut at May 19th, find all the debris and do one last pass.
Any further questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, do you have a motion, please?
So the motion reads, be it resolved that report CAO 2025-01 regarding the 2025 ice storm response summary of actions and recovery efforts be received, and then staff prepare a submission for disaster recovery assistance funding under the Municipal Disaster Recovery Assistance Program.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cox, second by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to J2.2, Chief Administrative Officer Report Number CAO 2025-02 to 2025 Ice Storm Staff Remuneration. Madam CAO.
Thank you. When we were compiling costs for the potential MDRA application, I reviewed the staff time that went into the response to the emergency and the subsequent cleanup. And there are a lot of hours in there. And I noticed that the way our compensation packages work, if you're bands 1 to 6, you get overtime. If you're 7 to 12, you do not. So in the provision of emergency services, for example, during that 2 weeks period, the superintendent of water and wastewater put in 63 hours above and beyond the time, doesn't get compensated for it, where his second in command got paid time and a half to do that. Normally, that is covered. In bands 7 to 12, people can bank up to 70 hours and get the time back at straight time, where staff get time and a half. But in this case, we're already at 70 hours for many of those positions by the end of April. So anything worked past that, Tony did 63 hours in those 2 weeks. So, and just to be clear, everybody did it willingly. Nobody asked for any extra pay, but I felt that I would be remiss as CAO if I didn't bring that to your attention and say for this year only, perhaps we need to look at doing it somewhere different. And I've given you some options to consider in that. Similarly, you'll see the numbers for volunteer fire calls were off the charts, and they do get an honorarium, but it's not terribly much. So the chief and I worked together to see if there was another way that we could recognize them for above and beyond efforts. And we provided an option for council. So it's really up to you to decide where you want to go with that.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor McIntyre.
Through the chair to the CAO, do we have an emergency fund set aside for any significant weather event or any other emergency event?
Through the chair, not really. I guess part of this is for the MDRA, time that is paid out is eligible, time that is banked is not. So if we're successful in getting MDRA fund, we will get reimbursed for any overtime council decides to pay. We don't really have an emergency per se. Andrew's correcting me, so maybe I don't have it quite right.
If I can, through the mayor, to Member McIntyre, we do have a small reserve fund for emergency preparedness, which is about, well, not about, it is at 40,000 right now.
Just to follow up, it's good we have that. I think that's marvelous we have that. I think we should spend that. It's an emergency fund. These people, one-off event, went right out of their element to keep us all safe, water drinkable, trees cleared up, everything that goes with this one-off disaster. We may not have another one of those for who knows how long. And wisely, somebody along councils before this one and others have put some money aside for that. I think the volunteer firefighters, for sure, should be compensated in some way beyond their honorarium. And the other group that Madam CAO brought forward, if they've banked the amount of hours that they're eligible to bank, then somewhere along the line they should be rewarded in another way, whether that's fiduciary or whether it's something that can be brought forward by the staff. But certainly the $40,000 that we have in abeyance for this sort of an event should be utilized at this time. And I would recommend that we discuss that at this table and just see if there's any dissent for it or any appetite to go forward with my thought.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to Madam CAO. You know, we have spoke about being grateful. Nothing says grateful than talking with your bloody wallet, as far as I'm concerned. These people did this. Not only did they do what Councillor McIntyre said, they did it while their own families were going through the same pain. And God knows it was painful. I am fully in favor of your highest option, and it's more than well deserved. And I'll tell you, they will be thankful for that, even though it's hardly enough. It's barely enough, but it's a real definite acknowledgement over the word thanks for good work done. And next time we need them, they're going to be there in spades. So good, great suggestion.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So option one there, offer no additional compensation. Of course, not at all. We should thank everyone for doing a job well done. And I like the idea of the band's 7 to 12 to bank the hours. And if it does go up to 105, then it's a one-time only. And being the higher band, you're in a higher salary, and it's a senior position. And I would go with the higher bank time for this year only.
Deputy Mayor Cox.
I guess I have two things. First of all, the one for the Firefighters, I'd like to see that more. Well, these people have full-time jobs. These people are volunteers. And it's hard to find volunteers, and especially volunteers to be a firefighter, because that it's not just a meeting on a Tuesday and it's like 24/7. You're waiting for the phone to go. You do it. So I have no problem if the chief would like to go up to 3,000 and split it, or whatever you want to do with that one. The other one I understand. I had doubts, but my concerns probably too is if we give them, and I don't know how to say, okay, if we give them an overtime check, the government's going to take a big hunk of it. Is there any way we can figure something out?
Madam CEO.
Tax evasion can be paid out minimally, or they can, and you have said here that if they do decide to take hours, they can, right? Because some of them may want to bank. Because I know many people I know do bank, because of the reason is that if you get your overtime, we all know what happens to it. You get one check and it kind of nails you and away you go. But if they choose to do the overtime hours, they can, right? Bank their hours.
Thank you. So there were a lot of points, and I wanted to come back to Councillor Taylor as well. On the firefighter, I definitely agree. I actually think you could easily double it. I mean, it's not a lot of money. The chief was very respectful in the program he put together, but doubling it to 5,000, he's got an idea of gift cards based on how many calls they went to on a bit of a sliding scale. So I think if you wanted to go up to 5,000, I think that would be really grateful. On the overtime, versus banked time, there will be staff that want to bank it, and council will need to decide whether you want to bank it at 1-for-1 or 1.5 to 1. I wouldn't recommend that option be taken for everybody, just because we wouldn't be able to make the operational. Like Derek has 70 hours, I'm sure, already. He doesn't take his 70 hours. He came back in the middle of his holidays to deal with that. So I don't suspect giving him an extra 35 hours he'll ever take it, because they're just operationally. Similarly, the superintendent of water and wastewater already got tons of vacation, and so if you add another bank, he just wouldn't be able to take it and make his operational needs. So I think some combination of payout. On the taxes, we typically run it as a supplemental pay, so it doesn't add to your normal salary and doesn't take as much. But yes, it takes a big chunk, and the people that got paid out definitely paid a big chunk of overtime. That's just how it is. Can't do much about that.
Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, through the chair. To the CAO, so is there a limited amount of funds when we have someone, for instance, resign and we don't fill their position immediately? There's no paycheck going out for that position. That funds, could we allocate some of all of that money? I don't want to use the word bonus, because that's taxable too, as Deputy Mayor said. But somehow our crack staff come up with an idea of how to use, for instance, that money on top of the 40,000 emergency funds to compensate our folks who worked well above and beyond.
Madam CEO.
Thank you. Through the chair, I've suggested in my report that that's how we would pay for, if council chooses to pay out the overtime, that we would pay it with salary gapping dollars. That's what we call it. For example, council approved a new position in HR that we haven't hired yet. So, we've got 4 months of gapping dollars there, and people leave all the time, and then it takes 2 months to hire. So we always have gapping dollars. So I'm not concerned about where we find the money, just concerned in getting a fair solution.
So I'll just dive in as well. When the sewer plant went down, and I said this before, I guess at 9 o'clock on Tuesday night, I went over to have a look, and Derek was out on the roads at 12:30 at night, above and beyond. And then you had the staff at the water plant. I know most of them have been compensated all right, but Tony, as Madam CEO has said, when I went back at 6 in the morning, he was still there. right? And so we're all the staff, and I feel they need to be compensated. And whether we choose what I'm hearing, whether we choose number 3 or number 4, not sure which one would better suit everyone, Madam CAO. We do have 40,000 sitting in the emergency preparedness account. I think from the report with the benefits, it would amount to about 60,000. Is that not correct, Madam CAO? Is that what's not in the report?
Sorry, I lost that number, but I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure I read 60,000.
I don't think it was that. Yeah, 30 or 40.
30 or 40, but does that include, oh, there it is there. Okay, so we actually have enough, as member or Councillor McIntyre said, there is enough money in that account to cover it. And I'll just look to council if they have any comments towards 3 or 4. Councillor Brennan.
I support most generous 4 and the change to the volunteer firefighters that was suggested by Deputy Mayor.
Is council okay with that? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I would support 4, but then give the employee the option if they want to bank whatever number of hours they want.
Perfect. Any further comments? Okay, Madam Clerk, I think it's option 4.
Okay, so be it resolved that report CAO 2025-02 be received, and the council extend their sincere thanks to all staff and volunteer firefighters involved in the emergency response. And further, that council wishes to compensate staff in bands 7 through 12 under option 4. And finally, that volunteer firefighters who responded to calls during the storm and flood emergency receive fuel gift cards on a sliding scale based on the number of calls attended at the discretion of the fire chief at the increased rate.
Is that okay with the council? I'll move in a second or move by, Madam CAO.
Councillor Brennan said, based on the deputy mayor who said 3,000, you want 5. You want 5. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Any further comments? Okay, moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor McIntyre. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, one correspondence from County Clerk request to consider consent of County of Simcoe bylaw 7119-25 to change the composition of County Council. I think Deputy Mayor Cox wanted to say something.
Okay, the composition of county council, they recommend to go to 17. There were 17 people who had an issue with it because of the weighted vote. The weighted vote then was asked to go to the governance committee, which met last week, and there was no decision or recommendations or options made at that time. We talked to the warden, and then a letter came out from the clerk's office that the governance meeting will now be the governance committee will now meet on May 20th to discuss the weighted vote. And then it will come back to County Council on May 27th. I think that the mayor and I want to find out what happens at that governance committee meeting, what is going to happen with the weighted vote, how people are going to look at this before we make a decision on the composition, because it does make a difference. If they fix the weighted vote so it's more fair for 16 people, then I don't have a problem with 16 members. But if they don't fix the fact that it won't be fair, it means that the larger municipalities have more weighted votes. And I can give you an example. I'll make it up, maybe. A member wants something done in his municipality in the south, and he puts forward a motion, and it's a regular vote, 1 hand up for everyone. It doesn't pass. He then can say, no, wait a minute, I want a weighted vote, because he's hoping maybe that when everybody pulls their weighted vote out, that he can get what he wants done passed. That to me is like an ace in a hole for a person. I don't have a problem if it's for the greater good. I don't have a problem if we've all got our county hat on, but I do have a problem that once there's only 16 people, it's going to be really easy to figure out in a conversation or a debate who's for and who's against. And if you do pull a weighted vote, how you're going to win. A little harder with 32 because you do have times when a mayor or deputy mayor don't vote the same way, and you're not sure what how they're going to vote because they don't speak. So I just think that I would, and I'm sure the mayor agrees, that we would like to wait to hear what happens after this governance meeting and it comes back to county council.
Thank you. And just to add to that, so how this unfolded was at the last county council meeting, we had a huge debate about, it's the recorded vote that triggers the weighted vote. So we asked that the governance committee take it back to the warden asked the governance committee, look at this and come back with some options. What happened at that meeting? That happened last week? There were no options that came back. We had to lobby the warden to say, when is the meeting happening? Because we have this on our agenda and we can't make a constructive decision today, not knowing where the governance committee was going with the recorded weighted vote. We needed some recommendations so that it would be fair across the whole board if we were going to move to a 16-member council. So what we're asking is, can we defer this pending what we hear back from the governance committee and county council? And from my understanding, talking to the warden, this isn't going to happen, and we don't need to have it back until the end of July, first week of August. So there's still time, but without listening to our colleagues down there and listening to the governance committee with their recommendations, it's premature now to make a decision, because my thoughts today, if we were going to make a decision, I would leave it at 32. I wouldn't vote having a 16-member council and one warden elected at large, because I don't have enough information yet to see where they're going with the weighted vote. I'm just hoping that council is okay with that. And I'll take any. Councillor Brennan?
Through the mayor to the mayor. Well, yes, for sure. I have a couple of questions. So for the smaller municipalities that are possibly ill-affected with a bad decision, if that so be it, are they also like, are we lined up with the other municipalities and in terms of our concern around the weighted vote, as you know, the smaller ones? And secondly, is there some assurance that that coordinated perspective is sent to the committee before they make a decision?
So just so brief history. So they lost. They actually lost because 17 of us, we didn't walk out, and they keep saying we walked. We just didn't go back in. So the vote was 17-15, but because someone asked for a recorded vote, it triggered the weighted vote and we lost. That's where the problem lies. So if it was a fair democracy, just like we do here, where we have 7 members, a 4-3 wins or a 4-3 loses, right? But at the county, and we actually, one of the members, and so childish it got, and I actually said something, someone poked someone and said, ask for a recorded vote because they'll lose. Well, are we children or are we adults here representing our prospective municipalities? This is where it's gone. And actually had and I won't mention any name, a mayor that actually bashed us, not once, not twice, in a public forum. And I reached out to the warden and said, the 17 of us have been respectful of the others. We can make our own minds up and vote how we wish. We don't bash one another as this gentleman did, twice, not once.
Sure.
Yes, there are other municipalities that are siding with us, and in fact, Wasaga Beach is, and they are one of the bigger numbers.
McIntyre.
That was part of my question. Through the chair. It seems to me that the weighted vote and the number of votes that are available in any discussion at the county is going to be a problem, because 11 could say no and 6 could say yes, and at the end of it all, the rest of the municipality of the county is not covered in a way that they should be. I think the weighted vote is confusing for most people, as it is for me, and maybe even our mayor and deputy mayor. But the population gives you more votes from the weighted vote. Are we in a position, I think you said, Madam Deputy Mayor, that one of those bigger voting blocks may side with the smaller groups. If that's Wasaga Beach, as you say. Now, if that's the case, could that group, along with the other smaller weighted vote townships, not overrule what's transpiring at the county?
Deputy Mayor Cox.
Yeah, I will send you a report from Deputy Mayor Peter Lavoie from Oral Medonte. If there are 16 council members in the next term, you'd have to have 5 plus 1 person. If it was weighted, if it was, 5 municipalities, and they could win, but a quorum actually is 8, right? You have to have 8 people for a quorum. So basically, it's not jiving right. 5 could win, 8 is the regular quorum. So in a regular, put your hand up. If it's 8-8, it's a tie, it's lost. If it's 9-7, the 9 win. But if you do the weighted, it can be 6 municipalities that could win. So if you did a regular vote, which we're allowed to do now, and they're going to look at it in a procedure. So if you had 16 people and you did a regular hand up vote, and it was a 9-7 vote, one of those members could say, I would like a weighted vote, and it could flip right around, and the 9 could lose. And it was also noted that 99% of the time, county council never uses a weighted vote. I asked then, why would we need the 1%? And I didn't really get an answer from anybody.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, this was quite a discussion at OSOM last week, but I believe that our mayor and deputy mayor are representing us very well at county council, and I would support what they are saying. Thank you.
Any further comments? Madam Clerk, then we'll just defer this until we have more information, please.
Certainly. So just a word that per the county clerks, we still do need to bring it back before June 30th. But we'll just defer it until June council.
Okay. Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions, sorry.
So Madam Clerk, can you reach out to the clerk? Because the warden's telling me that it's not until the end of July. The clerk is telling me has told you June 30th. Well, I'm getting a mixed message from the warden because he said there's no, like at end of July, we have no meetings in July. So I assume it's the first meeting in August. So we'll need some clarity before we bring it back to council June 1st or for the June meeting.
Through you, your worship. So as you can imagine, there's been some process meetings from the area clerks with the county clerk on this matter. So he absolutely needs a response by June 30th so that he can put the final report back for county council for it to come forward at the first meeting after your summer recess. So that is why he needs a response by June 30th. So I can let the county clerk know that he needs to, may want to touch base with the warden to ensure that the messaging is consistent, but that is the process that is anticipated from the county clerk. So he needs that June 30th response so that he has time to pull all the final pieces together and bring the final decision coming back. Because to be fair to him, he's waiting on responses from 16 municipalities. So.
Madam CEO.
Yep. And just a reminder, we're also on recess in July. So unless you called a special, the end of June would be your last time to consider it.
Motion reads that the matter be deferred to the June council meeting.
You move in a second, please. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Deputy Mayor Cox. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Cox.
And I will send out that information, any information that we get from anybody about the weighted vote and any issues with it, we'll send it to the rest of council. Thank you.
Moving on to K2 correspondence from Mark Misson, resignation from the Coldwater BIA board. Who would like to speak to that? Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I think the correspondence is fairly self-explanatory. Mr. Misson has been the chair for the last couple of years on the board and has had some serious personal struggles over that period of time. So in reflection of that, he has decided to take a step back from the board. He will still be involved as a volunteer when he can. But otherwise, it's just a motion to accept his resignation and extend his thanks for the work on the board.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cox, second by Councillor McIntyre. All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to Councillor Brennan, Quest Focus Group Session. Councillor Brennan.
Yes, thank you, through the mayor. So if you look at the material that was circulated, I won't go through the original motion that we went into roughly a while back. But in moving forward now, we had to make a decision on how we want to sort of put together this Quest initiative, and it involves some form of engagement with within the community that is being offered by the Quest organization. So I made a proposal to the CAO that maybe just based on what I think I understand, that probably the best way to do this was to establish this focus session in and based on timing. I know there's discussions going on with staff and the research principal for this project. So I can't speak to that. They may not have talked yet, or they may have, and I just don't know about it. But the idea would be to put together this one-day focus session. We wanted to make sure it was a productive session because we've only got one day, and also we wanted to be cost effective. So what I was proposing is that we have several key township staff, a county representative, the one that's involved with the county climate action plan, and a principal from that basically, representatives from several locally based organizations. Also, I am proposing that we have a rep from the Culture and Rec Committee, one from the Economic Development Committee, and of course, it's actually critical to make sure we have some First Nations involvement and get their input. That goes without saying. If you listen to the news lately, between Alberta and Ontario, we're getting ourselves into some serious trouble on those issues. I was also contacted by a First Nations charity group, the Land Below, based on anyway, who have expressed an interest in actually doing a presentation. They're a group that's been sponsored by the Ontario Trillium Fund, and they were, and our area is included in their area of interest. Anyway, none of this has all been locked down, but I wanted to get people, just everyday people that care about the community involved in this. And so what I was proposing today for a motion is that each member of council, if they so wish, I'm not pushing this on anybody, nominate up to 2 residents who would be willing to provide meaningful and productive input into a one-day focus session. I know I've had a couple people say, I'd like to learn more about climate change. I've heard Councillor McIntyre talk about residents that are quite active in his area of interest. And it's this type of person. It's not to have someone who is an expert at all in this matter. I just want people that are committed to a healthy, sustainable future. I definitely do not need climate denier people at this meeting. They will have an opportunity when we do come back to council with a draft plan under a public forum to speak their minds and present them accordingly. But this idea here is for a sincere effort to put together what we think is financially workable proposal that actually moves us closer to net zero, whenever that target year may be. Who knows these days? But basically, we know it's the right direction. So if you have people in your community that have an interest, it would be great to have them sit there. They do not have to know anything about climate science. What they do have to be good at is asking questions, and it's all that's important. And so it would be nice. I mean, if everyone offered up 2, we would have 14. It's going to be held here, as I understand it. We have enough room here to do this, so it's going to be cost effective that way. Also, costs are covered by Quest. So, but if you have 2 people that care about these things, we would love to have them participate in a one-day session. I don't know the day yet. We'll wait for staff to let us know what's going on there. But I just think that way we can get a representative sample of how people feel. And it's a fabulous opportunity to educate people who care in our communities about the climate issues that are around today. So I'm asking you, and again, if you so wish, and if anybody can find a farmer, I'm still looking for farmers. So that would be great, because farm component of this is extremely important if in terms of climate, and the farm community, the agricultural community is doing some really cool things out there that we need to be expressed through council to our residents. I think at the end of the, at least that's my biased perspective. So that's my request. That's all I'm asking is that, and you know, if it's not your thing, then it's not your thing. But we would love to have people who care join. And the groups that are being invited include the Couchiching Conservancy and groups like that. The SSEA is a key partner. They always will be. So John Maines would be part of that for sure. So and we've already corresponded with them. They can't lead it. They don't have the resources, but they definitely want to be part of it. And they will, at the end of the day, be important to us anyway, in terms of that, our local climate action planning. So that's what I put forward. If you have any questions.
Councillor McIntyre.
Through the chair, Member Brennan, Councillor Brennan, are you looking for any input from council? Could they be on this committee as well?
Yeah, we have to avoid issues of quorum. So what I was suggesting for this forum, I'm going to be there because I'm so invested in it. And I was going to suggest that one of the mayor or the deputy mayor is my suggestion.
Yeah.
And because this will be presented to council later, it's basically trying to put something together for council to chew on at a future date. I suspect in the fall, the way timelines are going, right? So, but I would love to have, it would be great. Like, I mean, it'll be up to the deputy mayor and the mayor. We can have a couple of people there for input, but we have to respect quorum. So if the mayor or deputy mayor aren't interested or have alternate ideas, I'm open. It was just my suggestion that it would be great to have someone who's been here for a lot longer than I have. I mean, I'm only 3 years on council at this point in time, and plus, to have people who are key leaders in on council. So that's what I would suggest. But I'll let them speak to that.
Deputy Mayor Cox.
Through the chair to Councillor Brennan, do you care if the farmer's from Severn? I might be able to.
This is not. Do you care? I guess is the question.
I think a farmer with some good I have a couple of ideas, and I'm pretty sure that they can help me find someone, or they could come themselves. They belong to the OFA.
Yeah,
Ontario Federation of
that would
Agriculture.
be fabulous.
Okay.
They are doing good work.
Yeah.
If there's no objection here, I have none.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure a farmer of the stature you're talking about would be highly respected by local farmers in any event. So that's great. But the idea was to kind of focus on community, if you will, right?
I just thought that I had just read an article in the paper that Paul Maurice wrote about the tariffs in agriculture, which I will send out. And he is the representative on the Canadian agricultural. And we know him, and we also know Dave Ritchie, who is the OFA. But he could recommend someone, or he may come, because they go to meetings all over all the time. So I'm sure they could, if it isn't, I think it's the whole idea of agriculture as much as it is Severn's agriculture. It's all the same.
And we would probably just list them as one of the organizations like the Couchiching Conservancy and so forth. I know they've expressed, and I'm not saying recently, but earlier in this game, the director there had expressed a keen interest in participating in this exercise. So I think that would be awesome. So,
Councillor Minnings.
Hi, thank you. So just a couple things about this proposal. It's no secret that staff are resourced and don't have capacity to take on anything more. And seeing that we already have SSEA and we're involved in the Couchiching Conservancy, and this Quest group came forward a year or so ago, I think, Member Brennan, and I did share it with people in my ward who are environmentalists, and they did a hard pass on it just based on their research of this. So I guess I'm really struggling to understand the relevancy and the cost, whether in manpower or pulling people into more meetings, et cetera, of this, when it's not one of our council priorities for this term, and yet it's another environmental thing. So it's not that I'm against environmental, it's just that in light of all the other competing priorities, I don't think that investing this deeply into this Quest group is something that should be part of council. And again, further to previous conversations, I know that this is your lane and this is something that you're interested in, but it's really hard for me to continue to pull things that are so far outside of Severn. And even to the deputy's mayor comment just now about pulling a farmer from outside of Severn, it's really hard for me as a member of council to take the time and to move this forward. Thank you.
You know, I just want to say that a climate action plan is something that we looked at before and we haven't really done anything with. And I want to thank Councillor Brennan for bringing it forward. It's a day's seminar and either the mayor or the deputy mayor sits on it, but I'll let Madam Clerk speak to resources as far as staff time. But I think it's a great beginning based on what happened last month. I think we need to be prepared and we really haven't done any work towards it. Really haven't had anyone on our council that's had a passion for it, like Councillor Brennan.
I just want to say the whole idea is to update our current commitments. This is not, now, the plan may say we're going to take some action in the next council, or we may take action in the next council. It may, I don't know that yet. We don't have a proposal. We know the general ideas and direction. You can hear that. There's hints from the federal election. There's hints from provincial discussion. There's hints as to where we may be going in terms of a municipal level. But I want to point out here very, very clearly that in terms of emissions, municipalities are over 50% of the contribution. This is very much our lane. And yeah, I may have a passion for proper environmental legislation, but I'm not the only one speaking to that. It's the right thing to do. And all we're looking at here, Quest is working with SSEA. SSEA has agreed to do that. This is not a new toy we're making here. You know, this isn't the $30. This is still the $2 if you want. It's just time to update the plan under a new political regime across Canada and the United States, to be frank, and make a proposal to council. Council will make the decision at the end of the day. And if this is too much of an investment in the crisis of our times, then we're not doing things right as far as I'm concerned.
Madam Clerk, thank you.
Thank you. So to member or Councillor Minning's question on staff resources. So Gemma, who is the lead individual from Quest on this, is doing 90% of the work to organize this focus group. We have touch base and are touching base again tomorrow. All township staff are doing is basically playing host and coordinating the use of council chambers, lunch if they need it, that type of stuff. So 90% of this, the agenda setting, coordinating with the attendees, setting the agenda, organizing speakers is all on Gemma. That will not be done by township staff. Just wanted to make sure that's explicitly clear. So we're doing about 5 to 10% of the lifting to organize this focus group, and it's a one-day session only. But it's 90% being done by Quest's organizer, just to member Minning's staff resource question.
Any further comments? Deputy Mayor Cox.
Yeah, and through the chair, I when we were at OSUM, the Municipal World was there, and they had, I like to read paper copies, I'm sorry. Anyway, they had March and April, and one whole issue of Municipal World is about this, about becoming more sustainable and about the fact that municipalities, as you said, have to start to clean up a bit. And they also talked about if one person in Canada, everybody plant one tree, how it would help. And I think the word needs to get out there. Our younger generation is very concerned about this. And I think it's a good role for us to tell them that so are we. I mean, we've got future generations and this is part of our job. I'm pretty sure that we're mandated to have some type of a sustainable. Are we not, through the chair? I think Mr. You were involved, Andrew, in this with the SSEA. Pardon? I don't know what the word of it is, sorry.
The township does have a sustainable climate action plan through Severn Sound Environmental Association, and they will be part of this group.
Yes.
When it does meet for its one-day session. And I do actually, if I remember what their director said at SSEA, we're actually looking to update it. So
But I'm just wanting to say that this isn't something new, like we have it, it's just sort of been dormant. And they're saying, everyone is saying, and municipalities all over, like they're showing that they're going to buy electric vehicles, they're doing all types of things. And I think it'd be a good example for us to put forward that so that people understand that we do care about it.
Thank you. Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, through the mayor. I agree with the fact that it's a one-day session. What the clerk said about very little of our resources are being put towards it. I think all the information you can gather up from as many people as you can would be of a benefit to all of us at the end. So I think at this moment, I'm going to agree with Councillor Brennan and say that it's a good initiative and I would support it.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah. Member Brennan mentioned SSEA and yeah, but he didn't in the report. So John Main is the key person here, and hopefully he could bring a recap. He's already doing climate action within his portfolio with all the 8 members of Severn Sound. So at minimum, he might be able to give you a snapshot where we're at now and you're not to get some leadership on guidance where he's going. So I've heard from Julie that they will be in attendance, and hopefully John can make it there. And he's a valuable resource. And I've been on a few meetings already about climate action along with Greg Belfry as well. So he might be able to give you a recap of where we're at now with Severn Sound.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, it's not just the current PCP thing that we're doing. Upper Tier County has prepared a climate action plan that is to be integrated into our official planning exercises. This is not a one-off here. And that's why I would want that representative here. That's why we would need, a planning staff that understand the thing, because one way or the other, you're going to run across this. So let's find out. And I know at the upper tier Simcoe level, they're basically looking, based on that May draft, they're looking for all kinds of ways to try to integrate this into our regular planning. So this is not a maybe one offer. This is an important part of us moving forward as a township.
Thank you. Any further comments? Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
there is no motion. It's just that Member Brennan's asking council members to provide a couple names to him. If you're unable to reach Member Brennan, feel free to email myself and I will forward those names along to Gemma, who's the contact on the project. If you have a name, please make sure you actually give us their contact information as well so we can invite them. That would be grand.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan, for bringing that forward. Moving on to K4 draft correspondence to the province of Ontario, strong mayor powers. Who would like to begin? Madam CEO.
Thank you. Council directed that we put this together for you last week, for whatever the last meeting was, for your considerations. So I listened to your comments carefully, and since then I've done 4 or 5 seminars from different lawyers, and more interesting than the lawyers, because a lot of the answers to the questions are we don't know yet. But more interesting than that is the actual questions and concerns that are raised in these seminars. So I put those all together into a letter that council may want to consider sending to the premier. You'll see, as we discussed last time, I took a bit of a conciliatory approach because it already is fact. You're probably not going to change it at this point. So instead, pointing out how they may consider strengthening the legislation going forward with things like more guide rails. Right now, it's pretty open on what the mayor can do with strong mayor, looking at unintended consequences that I don't think that they have thought of. The big one for me is number 3, stable funding, because I strongly believe, and this is a personal opinion, not a council opinion, you may think differently, but the mayor or council here, and I don't know about other places, but here you're definitely not slowing up development. What's slowing up development here is our lack of infrastructure. So until infrastructure dollars are provided, and I put a gentle shot about red tape reduction, because they're all about red tape reduction and seem to think that municipalities are full of red tape, but we apply for these grants over and over and over again, and they're huge forms, and we have to get engineering data and letters of support and a million different things, and then we're denied. So it's very frustrating. So I had mentioned to Allison during agenda review yesterday that we should actually consider sending the letter as well to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. There's a new Minister of Red Tape Reduction, so a little might go there as well. So happy to make changes or change the focus or do whatever council likes. That's, you have a draft before you. What we've suggested might go forward.
Thank you. Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just think it's should be noted that this is a very well-crafted letter with many points made in the kindest way to our premier, and I really think that you did a great job on this, Madam CEO. It's a great letter. Even our friend, the mayor, has, I'm sure, perused it, and that letter's been sent, as I understand.
No, sorry.
Or it's here for approval.
It was for council wish to comment on it before we sent it, so it has not been sent.
Well, there's not anything through the chair. There's not anything here I'd really like to change. It's factual. It's not harsh, and it's to the point, and very well crafted.
Deputy Mayor Cock.
Yeah, through the chair. I love it. You hit the nail right on the head on all of this. The best part would have been that we just can't build houses if we can't flush toilets. I brought that up at OSM, your comment. It was very clear. I really like it. I'm wondering if we should also send it to our MPP. And because it's written so well, and it really clearly states from the 3 or 4 different, I've been like you watching webinars on it. I wouldn't mind sending it to the councils in Simcoe County. I don't think we need their approval, but I would like to send it out because I think it's very well done. And I didn't know if you want to do AMO or OSM, but I just think we've done a really good letter here. And when I read what OSM and AMO have commented on, this takes what they vaguely commented on and actually hit exactly what needs to be commented on. Thank you.
Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, boy, I had a hard time with this. So after our last meeting, I thought, let's see what we can do here. No argument. The letter is beautifully written and very tactfully done. And I'm sure this council will pass it, but they're going to have to do it without me. Just to start. So read this agenda. Then I listened to a mayor of a city down south in Simcoe County, the mayor of Barrie. And I listened to him express why he uses these powers in Barrie. And I just shook my head. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And, apparently everything was supported fully by council. It raises the question, why on earth would you use strong mayor powers then? So it was a pile of nonsense as far as I was concerned. This is authoritarian legislation. And it's the start. The problem I had was then I got to reading about Bill 5. Oh my God, Bill 5. And you read that and you go, wait a minute, they've reduced municipal decision-making, people's input, First Nations rights. They've destroyed the Endangered Species Act. And again, there's a total, they call it all red tape. It is not red tape. This is how you get, if you caught this morning's global news, what's this government? They're in trouble again over the Greenbelt. They're being asked for more information about their calls. This is the kind of thing it leads to. It leads to foul-smelling decisions at the end of the day. And this is just the start, obviously, because you add in Bill 5 on top of that. Then you add in the criticism of our judicial system in the last 2 weeks. To me, the alarm bells are going off like crazy. holy smokes, what's going on here? And so I can't, anything that involves that kind of attack on progressive democracy, I can't vote for it. And with all due respect, the guys put that letter forward, but it's a shock to me just what is going on right now in terms of these authoritarian types of legislation. And I'll stand opposed to it every minute I'm here. That's it.
Councillor Minnings.
Thank you, through the mayor. I don't know how to state this, so I'm just going to go through the mayor to the clerk. I'm just concerned about the comments that were just made by Member Brennan, just because they spoke to more than this letter, which is on the agenda. And I was looking to see there's some tool that council can use to bring a conversation or a discussion back on topic. Is there not? And how would I do that?
Not sure, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, I mean, if
Point of council, does that sound familiar?
point of order is where someone can raise an issue and say that we wandered off topic.
Okay.
The member would like a specific report on proposed legislation. That would be a council motion to direct staff to do such. But otherwise, anytime a member feels that council has veered normally pretty extremely off the topic, then a point of order can be raised.
Okay, thank you. I knew I had heard something before. Yeah, I just like our conversation to stick with what's on the agenda. As everybody knows, I a counselor on a letter of permission from my full-time employer, which is the province. So when there's criticisms against other levels of government, that makes it very difficult for me to continue, and I need that addressed going forward. So as far as the letter, the opening paragraph has 4 sentences and 3 of them have the word concerned. So although I'm fine with the way the letter's written, I'm wondering if the introductory sentence could be tweaked to say that, this town, we're submitting this letter in response to the recent announcements, and then just carry on with the rest of the letter. That would be my only edit. Thank you.
Thank you. What do the other members of council feel about that? I think it's very well written. I have no problems with it the way it's written, and thank you, Laurie, for doing it. Councillor Taylor, sorry.
Yeah, further to what Councillor Minnings was saying, I do think that the conversation got off base there. I support the letter, and I think it's well done, and we should stick to the items on the agenda and nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think no other comments. Madam Clerk, do you have a motion? I think we're just going to stick with the letter the way it is. Deputy Mayor Cox.
I'm sorry, I do have I don't know though if I can comment because I guess it does have something to do with the letter. I'm sorry. Maybe it is, just a minute. Oh, number 2 in the letter. Consider and mitigate potential unintended consequences. So it will be on topic. I'm wondering if we could have the CAO look at our contracts for our staff over the next year. So I don't know how quickly it has to be done. I don't feel that we have any issues with our mayor now, but I don't know that I would want to be in a director or whatever they're called position, because your employment is on the line. And if you may not say what the strong mayor wants, then your employment could be off the line. You could not have a job. Yesterday, I listened to a webinar and they talked about termination clauses, leaders to feel comfortable to speak frankly and give a hard truce, as that is their job, and different packages and better protection for staff, because now it doesn't seem to have any guidelines. It's just if the mayor wants to not to well, to veto and decide not to fire the CAO. I mean, they even had questions yesterday in this one that said, can the mayor become the CAO? They don't even know that. There was another one that said, if the mayor right now changes or says he wants this done this way, like staff go back and you have this control, can the new mayor come in next term and veto it all and start over again? So I think we may not get some clear guidelines quickly from the government, but I think we should investigate the fact that we should protect our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that something we can, Madam CEO?
Certainly, you could, council can give direction for me to look at that. That's definitely something that has been coming up in all of these webinars that we have, that people are looking to. Your employment relationship now is much different than what you signed up for. So people are either looking to update their contracts to provide some security for that, or if their employer isn't willing to do that, they're looking at new jobs where your negotiating power is stronger, because you're always strongest when you're going in. So definitely that's something that municipalities are looking at, particularly for the non-protected staff. And the legislation is very random. For example, if we had a deputy clerk, the clerk and the deputy clerk are protected staff, but the deputy fire chief is not. So I don't know what the difference is. There are statutory positions that have deputies, but some are protected and some aren't. So, but there are definitely ways to protect that. There was an example that the day that the strong mayor powers came out, I think it was Quinty West, maybe somewhere down there, the same day that mayor fired their CAO. And it's not always clear if, when these powers are being used, if the mayors understand, and I'm not speaking for that mayor, I have no idea, maybe he got great advice. The mayor has the power to do those things, but he doesn't have the power to opt out of employment law. So this poor CAO had been there since 2003. So they were cutting that guy a big check. So I think the idea of strengthening contracts is to make the mayor, the strong mayor, whoever he or she may be at the time, understand there are consequences to making those decisions. It's not just a simple make a decision. There are a lot of consequences that go. So if that's something council wants us to look at, we certainly can.
I think supplement Deputy Mayor Carter.
And the other one that I found interesting was the dual role. If you're a CAO clerk, does that protect you? They don't know that. Or if you're a treasurer, no, not treasurer, sorry, I have to find somebody else. But anyway, there's people who have dual roles. The one example was that their clerk was also a legal like their legal employee, the legal rep. So does that protect that person because they've got the clerk in front? Or can they say, no, you're off because of the lawyer part? So there's a lot of gray areas. And I really believe that we need to look at these and be prepared for it. And the other one I think that's great, and I could be wrong through to the CAO, is it says, I read somewhere, and I could be wrong, is that our municipal act does not clearly define a CAO and their responsibilities or whatever it is, but other provinces have an act which does clearly state what a CAO is. Am I wrong on that?
Madam CEO.
That is correct. That's something that OMAA has been lobbying hard for, but we've been lobbying long before the strong mayors came up, because other provinces do very clearly lay out the duties of the CAO. The Ontario Municipal Act says that municipalities may have a CAO. It's not required, and it's not, the duties aren't really, they're defined, and it's unclear when they talk about the mayor being the CEO. So the distinction there is blurry. It's always been blurry before the strong mayor, and now with the strong mayor, it's even blurrier.
Councillor McIntyre.
Through the mayor, just a comment. I think it's a sad state of affairs when the staff in a municipality, not this particular municipality, but most or other municipalities, have to be looking over their shoulder and appease the mayor because he is having a bad day. You're out of a job. I think it's just an unfortunate foggy area where the province hasn't come clear on what to do in that side of the strong mayors. It's sad commentary when you have to live in fear that you go to work and you're going to be dumped because the mayor had a bad day, or, you know, the dog bit him or whatever. It's just not right. I just want that to be on the record. I think it's crazy.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is, if you could, do we need a motion for that, Madam Clerk, or can you just bring it back at a later time, Madam CEO?
Through you, your worship, direction's fine.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no further comments, do you have a motion for K4, please, Madam Clerk?
Okay, the motion is that the draft correspondence to the province of Ontario regarding strong mayor powers be approved and sent to the province of Ontario, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Minister of Red Tape Reduction, County, Simple Municipalities and Local MPP.
Seconder, moved by Councillor McIntyre, second by Deputy Mayor Cox. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to announcements. Any announcements? No announcements, closed session. Oh, sure, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cox.
I just wanted to do my announcement. The Coldwater Duck Race is on the last Saturday of May. And if anybody on council wants to be in the parade, please feel free to contact me. I'll have a duck outfit for you.
That's dead.
Anyway, everybody's welcome to come. It's a great fundraiser. The money that the Lions Club makes always goes back to the community. And as you heard, the Soldiers Memorial Hospital is coming to speak to the Lions Club. So I can only think that they're probably coming to give us a little notice, and we'll probably be looking towards our club. We'll be looking towards a donation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further announcements? No? Okay, closed session. We have none. General bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. And I will note this is a change that you're going to see in the motions related to bylaws now as a result of the strong mayor powers. So the motion to approve the bylaws is just that bylaws number 2025-31 to 2025-36 inclusive or hereby passed.
Okay. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? That's carried. Confirmation bylaw, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Motion reads that bylaw number 2025-37 is hereby passed.
A seconder, please. Councillor McIntyre, Councillor Deputy Mayor Cox. All in favor? That's carried. Adjournment. Thank you very much, everyone. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Taylor. All in favor? That's carried. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Go Leafs, go.
Enjoy.
Say hello to Donna, Mark.